Maya Patel found the box at 6:47 a.m. on December 26th, sitting just outside the front door of Riverside Animal Shelter. She almost stepped on it in the pre-dawn darkness, catching herself at the last second when she heard the sound, a soft whimper, barely audible over the wind. "Oh no," Maya breathed, already knowing what she'd find. She'd worked at the shelter for 8 years. She knew this pattern. Every year, the day after Christmas brought a wave of returns. Puppies that turned out to be more work than expected, animals that didn't match the recipient's lifestyle, impulse gifts that reality had rendered impractical. But this was different. Maya knelt beside the cardboard box, a large one, the kind that might have held a microwave or a small TV. Someone had punched air holes in the sides and lined the bottom with a towel. And inside, shivering and confused, was a golden retriever puppy who couldn't have been more than 8 weeks old. "Hey there, little one," Maya said, softly, reaching in to lift the puppy out. He was cold, but not freezing, scared, but not injured. Someone had at least cared enough to make sure he could breathe, to give him something soft to lie on. Taped to the inside of the box was an envelope. Maya opened it with one hand, while holding the trembling puppy against her chest with the other. The note inside was handwritten on Christmas stationery, Santa and reindeer dancing across the top, a cruel irony given the words below. "His name is Charlie. He was supposed to be a surprise Christmas gift for our son. We ordered him months ago, paid a deposit, planned the whole thing. But our son didn't make it home for Christmas. He's never coming home. We can't look at this dog. We can't keep something that was meant to celebrate a homecoming that will never happen. Please find him a good home. Please tell whoever takes him that he was going to be so loved. I'm sorry. We're so sorry." The note wasn't signed. Maya held the puppy closer, feeling him burrow into her warmth, his tiny heart beating against her ribs. "Oh, Charlie, I'm so sorry too." If this story of a puppy meant to welcome home a hero, of a family broken by loss, and of one woman's determination to complete a mission that grief had interrupted moves you, please subscribe to Second Chance Stories and hit that notification bell. What unfolds will show you that sometimes the hardest gifts to accept are the ones we need most. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Maya Patel was 31 years old and had seen too many animals abandoned for too many reasons. Dogs that barked too much, cats that weren't the right color, puppies that were adorable until they needed training. After 8 years at Riverside, Maya had developed a thick skin and a pragmatic approach. She couldn't save them all, couldn't fix every situation, couldn't let every heartbreak destroy her. But something about Charlie got through her defenses. Maybe it was the note, the raw grief bleeding through every word. Maybe it was the date, December 26th, the day when the magic of Christmas crashed into the reality of everyday life. Or maybe it was just Charlie himself, the way he looked at her with those puppy eyes that were too trusting for a dog who'd been abandoned before his life had really begun. Maya brought Charlie inside and did her intake protocol. Temperature, weight, examination for obvious health issues. He was healthy, well-fed, clearly cared for. His nails were trimmed, his coat brushed. Someone had been taking good care of him before they decided they couldn't keep him. "Let's see if you've got a microchip," Maya said, running the scanner over Charlie's shoulders. The scanner beeped. Positive. Maya pulled up the registration information and felt her stomach drop. The chip was registered to SSGT, James Mitchell, U.S. Army, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Staff Sergeant. The son was military. The note made terrible sense now. A soldier coming home, a puppy as a homecoming surprise. Except the soldier hadn't come home. Maya sat back in her chair. Charlie curled in her lap and felt tears she usually kept locked away start to fall. This wasn't just an abandoned puppy. This was a family's grief, made physical. This was love that had become unbearable to hold. She pulled herself together and did what she always did when emotions threatened to overwhelm her. She focused on logistics. Charlie needed food, vaccines, a place to stay until they could find him a permanent home. The shelter was at capacity, especially post-Christmas, but Maya had a foster room at her apartment. She'd take him home, care for him, until the right family came along. "You're safe now," Maya told Charlie. "I've got you." But as she carried the puppy to her car, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that this case was different, that Charlie was different, that something about this story wasn't finished yet. The first few days with Charlie were exhausting in the way that only puppies can be. He needed to go out every 2 hours, including through the night. He cried when left alone. He chewed everything within reach. He had accidents on Maya's rug, despite her best efforts at house training. But he was also sweet, affectionate, and remarkably smart. By day 3, he'd figured out the basic routine. By day 5, he was responding to his name and sitting on command. And by day 7, Maya noticed something odd. She'd been putting away groceries when she dropped a jar of pasta sauce. It shattered on the kitchen floor, glass and red sauce everywhere. Maya had jumped back with a yelp of surprise. Charlie's response was immediate and specific. The puppy, who'd been playing with a toy in the living room, ran to Maya and positioned himself between her and the door. Not the mess, the door. His body was rigid, alert, his attention fixed on the doorway like he was expecting a threat to come through it. "Charlie, it's okay. I just dropped something." But Charlie wouldn't relax. He maintained his position until Maya had cleaned up the glass and closed the pantry door. Only then did the puppy's body language soften, and he returned to his toy. Maya filed the incident away as puppy weirdness, until it happened again the next day. Maya's neighbor had knocked loudly on her door, a delivery that needed a signature. Charlie had been asleep on his bed, but the knock had him on his feet instantly. Again, he positioned himself between Maya and the door, and this time he barked. Not the high-pitched yapping of a puppy, but a deeper, more purposeful sound. "Hey, it's okay. That's just Dave from next door." Maya opened the door, signed for the package, and closed the door again. Charlie watched the entire interaction with intense focus, never taking his eyes off the neighbor until the door was securely closed. "You're a suspicious little guy, aren't you?" Maya said, scratching Charlie's ears. But a thought was forming. She'd seen trained dogs before. The shelter sometimes got police K-9 retirees or failed service dog candidates. Charlie's behavior had the structure, the purposefulness of trained responses. But he was only 8 weeks old, way too young for any formal training. Unless someone had started with him very early, unless someone had been deliberately shaping these behaviors from the moment he was born. On December 30th, Maya made a decision she knew might be crossing a line. She used the microchip information to track down SSGT James Mitchell's family. It wasn't hard. Military families who lost children often had public memorial pages, news articles, obituaries. Maya found James Mitchell's story in about 15 minutes of searching. Staff Sergeant James Mitchell, age 24, killed in action in Afghanistan on November 28th. He'd been on his 3rd deployment. a combat engineer who'd spent his career detecting and disabling IEDs. He was survived by his parents, Robert and Catherine Mitchell, and a younger sister, Emma, age 19. Maya found Catherine Mitchell's Facebook page. It was a wall of grief, memorial posts, photos of James, messages from friends offering condolences. The most recent post, from December 24th, said simply, "First Christmas without him. I don't know how to do this." There were no posts after Christmas, no mention of Charlie or a puppy or anything going wrong. Maya debated for an hour before sending a message to Catherine Mitchell's Facebook account. "Mrs. Mitchell, my name is Maya Patel. I work at Riverside Animal Shelter in Virginia. On December 26th, someone left a golden retriever puppy at our shelter. His microchip is registered to your son, SSGT James Mitchell. I wanted to reach out because the puppy, Charlie, seems to have some training, and I thought you might want to know where he is. I'm so sorry for your loss. If you'd like to talk about Charlie, please call me." She included her phone number and hit send before she could second-guess herself. The response came at 11:47 p.m. Maya was already in bed, Charlie asleep beside her, when her phone rang. "Hello? This is Catherine Mitchell." The voice was raw, exhausted, older than the woman in the Facebook photos. "You have Charlie?" "Yes, ma'am. He was left at the shelter on December 26th. Silence. Then, "I left him there. My husband and I. We couldn't keep him." "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm not calling to judge you or—" "You should judge me," Catherine's voice broke. "What kind of mother can't even keep her dead son's dog? What kind of person sees a puppy and only sees everything they've lost?" Maya waited, letting Catherine cry on the other end of the line. She'd learned in this work that sometimes people just needed to say the hard things out loud. "We ordered Charlie in August," Catherine finally continued. "James was coming home in January. He'd done 3 deployments, and this was supposed to be his last. He was planning to leave the army, use his GI Bill to go to school, start his life. He'd always wanted a dog, but deployment schedules made it impossible. So we thought, when he comes home, we'll surprise him with a puppy, a homecoming gift, a fresh start." "That's a beautiful gift," Maya said softly. "We paid a deposit to a breeder who specializes in dogs for veterans, therapy dogs, service dogs, that kind of thing. She said she had a litter due in October, that she'd hold the best male puppy for James, that he'd be ready to go home right after Christmas." Catherine's breathing was shaky. "James was killed 3 weeks before he was supposed to come home. We got the notification on November 28th. We buried him on December 10th. And on December 22nd, the breeder called to say Charlie was ready for pickup." Maya closed her eyes. "Oh, Catherine. We should have cancelled when James died. We should have told her we didn't want him anymore. But I couldn't do it. It felt like cancelling James, like admitting he wasn't coming back. So we went and got Charlie on December 23rd. We brought him home. And Emma, my daughter, she tried. She tried to take care of him, to pretend everything was okay. But I looked at that puppy, and all I could see was my son's empty bedroom, his unused uniforms, his flag-draped coffin. I understand." "No, you don't, because on Christmas morning, we were supposed to watch James open that box and see Charlie for the first time. We were supposed to watch him laugh and play and be happy. Instead, we sat in our living room with a puppy that kept looking for someone who wasn't there. And I couldn't take it. I couldn't spend one more minute with something that reminded me every second that my son is dead." Catherine was openly sobbing now. "So, on December 26th, My husband and I put Charlie in a box and drove him to your shelter. We left him like trash. We abandoned a puppy that James never even got to meet. What kind of people are we? You're people who are grieving, Maya said. You're people who are trying to survive something unsurvivable. Charlie is safe. He's healthy. He's with me right now, actually sleeping on my bed. You didn't hurt him, Catherine. You just couldn't keep him. And that's okay. Is it? Is it really okay to throw away your dead son's last gift? Maya didn't have a good answer for that. Do you want him back? If you change your mind, if you… No. The word was absolute. I can't. My husband can't. Emma wants to, but she's leaving for college in 2 weeks, and she can't take a dog with her. Please, just find Charlie a good home. Find him someone who can love him without seeing a ghost. I will. I promise. Wait. Catherine's voice shifted. You said he has training? What kind of training? Maya explained what she'd observed. Charlie's protective positioning, his alertness to doors and potential threats, his focused intensity during certain situations. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. You should call Fort Bragg. Talk to James's unit. Charlie wasn't just supposed to be a pet. James's commanding officer said they'd been working on something special for him. I didn't ask for details. I couldn't handle knowing about plans that wouldn't happen, but I think Charlie might be part of that. Do you have a name? Someone I could contact? Captain Andrew Reese. He spoke at James's funeral. He said James saved his whole unit 6 times, that James had a gift for finding danger before it found them. Captain Reese said they wanted to give James something to help him transition home, something that honored what he'd done. After hanging up with Catherine, Maya held Charlie and tried to make sense of what she'd learned. Then she did something she'd never done before in 8 years of shelter work. She called a military base at midnight and insisted they put her through to an officer. To her surprise, they did. Captain Andrew Reese answered on the 3rd ring. This is Reese. Captain Reese, I'm sorry to call so late. My name is Maya Patel. I work at an animal shelter in Virginia, and I have a puppy that I believe belonged to Staff Sergeant James Mitchell. The silence on the other end was heavy. Charlie? Yes, sir. His family couldn't keep him after James was killed. They brought him to the shelter on December 26th. But, sir, this puppy has behaviours that seem trained. His mother mentioned you were working on something special for James. I can't discuss operational details with civilians. I'm not asking for operational details. I'm asking what this puppy was supposed to be. Because if he's trained for something, if he has a purpose, I need to know that so I can place him appropriately. Another long silence. Then, can I call you back on a secure line in 10 minutes? Yes, sir. 12 minutes later, Maya's phone rang from a blocked number. Ms. Patel, what I'm about to tell you is not classified, but it's sensitive. Can I trust you to be discreet? Yes, sir. Staff Sergeant Mitchell was one of the best combat engineers I've ever worked with. He had an instinct for IEDs that saved countless lives, but 3 deployments took their toll. He had PTSD, anxiety, survivor's guilt. When he told me he was planning to leave the army, I wanted to give him something that would help him transition, something that honored his service while supporting his mental health. Captain Reese paused. We have a program, informal, not official, where we work with breeders who specialize in dogs for veterans. The breeder who produced Charlie's litter had specifically bred the mother and father for temperament and trainability. From the day Charlie was born, members of James's unit visited him. We handled him, exposed him to different stimuli, started shaping behaviors. The idea was that when James picked him up, Charlie would already have a foundation for becoming a psychiatric service dog. Maya felt goosebumps rise on her arms. So Charlie is trained. Not trained exactly. He's 8 weeks old, too young for formal training. But he's been carefully socialized and prepared. He's been exposed to loud noises, protective scenarios, alerting behaviors. We were creating a framework that a professional trainer could build on once James got home. What specific behaviors were you shaping? Protective positioning, staying between James and potential threats, alert behaviors, notifying James when someone approached, grounding behaviors, providing physical contact during anxiety episodes. Basic stuff, but the foundation for serious service dog work. The idea was that Charlie would grow up already knowing his job was to take care of James. Maya looked at Charlie, who was watching her with those intelligent brown eyes. But James didn't make it home. No, he didn't. Captain Reese's voice was thick with emotion. Charlie was supposed to help James heal from war. Instead, James's family got a puppy trained to do a job that no longer existed. What if the job still exists? Maya said suddenly. What if Charlie's mission wasn't just to help James, but to help James's family? What do you mean? The Mitchells are grieving. They're broken. They pushed Charlie away because he reminded them of their loss. But what if Charlie is exactly what they need? What if he could help them the way he was supposed to help James? Miss Patel, these people just lost their son. You can't force them to take a dog they don't want. I'm not talking about forcing them. I'm talking about showing them what Charlie can do, about letting them see that honoring James doesn't mean keeping everything the same or pushing everything away. It means completing his mission. James wanted a dog who would help people heal. Charlie can do that. Maybe not for James, but for the people James loved. Captain Reese was quiet for a long moment. What are you proposing? Give me until New Year's. Let me work with Charlie, document his behaviors, prove what he's capable of. And then let me show the Mitchells that keeping Charlie isn't about replacing James or forgetting James. It's about finishing what James started. And if they still say no, then I find Charlie a veteran who needs him. And we honor James's memory that way. But at least we try. At least we give this family a chance to say yes to something instead of just surviving their grief. Captain Reese exhaled slowly. James used to say that every mission deserves completion, even if it doesn't go the way you planned. I think he'd like your idea, Miss Patel. What do you need from me? Everything you have on Charlie's early training, the behaviors you were shaping, the goals you had, the training plan that was supposed to happen, and if possible, I'd like you to come meet with the Mitchells on New Year's Eve to tell them about James's last mission. I can do that, Ms. Patel. Yes, sir. Thank you for not giving up on Charlie or on James's family. The next 3 days were the most intense of Maya's life. She worked with Charlie constantly, reinforcing the behaviors Captain Reese described, documenting everything on video. She reached out to a professional service dog trainer who agreed to evaluate Charlie and provide a written assessment. She also prepared a presentation, photos of James, information about his service, details about Charlie's training, videos of the puppy's behaviors, testimonials from Captain Reese and the trainer. On December 31st, Maya called Catherine Mitchell. Mrs. Mitchell, I know you said you didn't want Charlie back, but I need to show you something. Not because I'm trying to guilt you or force you into anything, but because I think you deserve to know what your son was planning, what Charlie was meant to be. Catherine was resistant at first. I can't see that dog again. I barely made it through Christmas. New Year's Eve is going to be hard enough without. Captain Reese will be there. He wants to tell you about James's last mission, the one Charlie was supposed to complete. The word mission seemed to change something. James's last mission? Yes, ma'am, please. Just give me 1 hour. If after that you still don't want Charlie, I will never contact you again. I'll find him another veteran, and I'll make sure he lives a good life. But please, let me show you what James wanted to give you. There was a long pause. Then, where and when? They met at a coffee shop near the Mitchell family home at 4 p.m. on New Year's Eve. Catherine and Robert Mitchell looked exactly like parents who'd lost a child, aged beyond their years, moving like they were underwater, smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Their daughter Emma was with them, a younger version of her mother with James's eyes. Captain Reese was already there, in dress uniform, standing when the family entered. Maya was there with Charlie, who sat calmly at her feet despite the new environment. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, Emma, Captain Reese said, his voice formal but warm. Thank you for coming. I know this is a difficult day. Every day is difficult, Robert said, his first words since arriving. I know, sir. I wish I could change that. But I can tell you about something James was planning. Something he wanted to give you. Over the next hour, Captain Reese and Maya presented their case. They showed photos of James in Afghanistan, told stories about his service, his humor, his dedication. Then they explained the plan. The puppy ordered months in advance, the careful breeding, the early training by James's unit. James knew coming home would be hard, Captain Reese said. He knew he'd have PTSD, anxiety, all the invisible wounds that combat creates. He didn't want to burden you with that. So he planned to get Charlie, to train him as a service dog who could help him manage his symptoms. James wanted to heal so he could be the son and brother you deserved. Catherine was crying silently. Emma had her hand over her mouth. Robert stared at the table. But James didn't just want help for himself, Captain Reese continued. He wanted his family to understand what he'd been through. He used to say that the hardest part of coming home was the gap, the space between what he'd experienced and what you could understand. He thought maybe having a dog trained to notice stress and anxiety would help bridge that gap, would give you a way to help him even when he couldn't ask for help. Maya spoke up. Charlie was trained, as much as an 8-week-old puppy can be trained, to do specific things, to notice when someone is anxious or stressed, to provide physical comfort through pressure and proximity, to alert when someone needs support. He was going to be James's partner in healing. But now James is gone, Catherine said, her voice hollow. So what's the point? The point is that you're still here, Maya said gently, and you're grieving. And you're probably having anxiety and stress, and moments where you can't breathe because the weight of losing James is crushing you. Am I right? All three Mitchells nodded. Charlie can't bring James back, but he can do what he was trained to do. Notice when you're struggling and help you through it. Not because he replaces James, but because this is James's last gift to you. This is him, still taking care of his family, still trying to bridge the gap. Maya pulled out her phone. Let me show you what Charlie can do. She played videos she'd taken over the past 3 days. Charlie responding to signs of stress, comforting Maya when she acted upset, positioning himself protectively during loud noises, alerting to the door when someone approached. For an 8-week-old puppy, his behaviours were remarkably consistent and purposeful. This isn't just a pet, Maya said. This is a working dog in the very beginning of his training. This is James's legacy. The question is, do you want to be part of completing his mission? Emma spoke for the first time. I do. I want Charlie, but I'm leaving for college in 2 weeks. I can't take him with me. Then we find a way to share him, Maya said. Your parents keep him during the school year. You take him during breaks. Or we arrange for professional training that continues what James's unit started. Or we get creative. But pushing Charlie away doesn't protect you from grief. It just means you're grieving alone. Robert Mitchell finally looked up, his eyes meeting Maya's. What if we fail him? What if we can't give him what he needs? Then I help, Maya said simply. I'm a professional. I do this for a living, and Captain Reese has offered to check in regularly to make sure Charlie stays on track. You won't be alone in this, but you have to say yes. You have to be willing to let this be the thing that helps you survive losing James. Catherine was looking at Charlie for the first time since they'd arrived. The puppy was sitting quietly at Maya's feet, but his eyes were on Catherine, tracking her with the intense focus of a dog who knows his person when he sees them. Can I? Catherine's voice broke. Can I hold him? Maya gently placed Charlie in Catherine's lap. The puppy immediately burrowed into her, his small body fitting perfectly against her chest. And Catherine, who'd been holding herself together through sheer force of will, finally broke. She sobbed into Charlie's fur, her whole body shaking with grief that had been locked away since James died. Robert moved to hold his wife, and Emma joined them. And for 5 minutes, the Mitchell family just held each other and James's puppy and cried for everything they'd lost. When Catherine finally looked up, her face was devastated, but also somehow lighter. He smells like the puppy shampoo we used on Christmas Eve, before we left him at your shelter. He remembers you, Maya said. Dogs have incredible sense memory. He knows you're his family. How do we do this? Robert asked. How do we keep going when everything reminds us that James is gone? You do it one day at a time, Captain Reese said. You wake up, you take care of Charlie, you put one foot in front of the other. Some days will be harder than others, but that's what James would want. He'd want you to keep living. He'd want you to let Charlie help you, the way James wanted to help you. Emma was petting Charlie, her tears falling on his soft fur. Do you really think James planned this? That he wanted us to have Charlie? I know he did, Captain Reese said. James talked about it constantly. How excited he was to surprise you with a puppy. How he hoped Charlie would help you understand what he'd been through. How he wanted to come home and be fully present instead of being haunted by war. Charlie was going to be the bridge, and he still can be, just not in the way James planned. What do we do first? Catherine asked Maya. First, you take Charlie home. Tonight, you spend New Year's Eve with him. You see how it feels to have him in the house, to care for him, to let him be part of your grieving process. If it's too much, if it hurts too badly, you call me tomorrow and I'll come get him. No judgment, no guilt. But if you can handle it, if having him helps even a little bit, then we move forward. We get him into professional training. We teach him to be the dog James wanted him to be. And we complete this mission together. The Mitchells looked at each other, a silent conversation that families have when words aren't enough. Finally, all three nodded. Okay, Catherine said, her voice steady for the first time since the meeting began. Okay, we'll try. For James, we'll try. Maya helped them load Charlie's supplies into their car. Food, bowls, toys, the training manual Captain Reese had provided. As they were leaving, Emma turned back. Miss Patel, thank you. Thank you for not letting us throw away the last piece of James we're ever going to get. Thank you for being brave enough to say yes. Maya stood in the coffee shop parking lot as the Mitchells drove away, Charlie visible in the back seat with Emma. Captain Reese stood beside her. "Do you think they'll really keep him?" Maya asked. "I think they'll try. And sometimes trying is enough. And if it's not, if they call tomorrow and say they can't do it, then you find Charlie another veteran, like you said. But Maya, I've seen a lot of grief in my career, and I've learned that sometimes people need permission to accept help. You gave the Mitchells that permission today. You showed them that honoring James doesn't mean suffering alone. That's a gift." Over the next week, Maya checked in with the Mitchells daily. The first few days were hard. Charlie cried at night, had accidents, required constant attention. Catherine called twice saying she couldn't do this, that it was too much. But Emma was there for winter break, and she took charge of Charlie's care with the determination of someone who'd found a purpose in the purposelessness of grief. By January 7th, something had shifted. Catherine sent Maya a photo. Charlie asleep on James's old bed, which they'd moved to the living room. The caption said, "He sleeps here every night. We all take turns sitting with him. It's like having a piece of James back." On January 10th, Emma sent a video. Charlie responding to basic commands, sitting, staying, coming when called. Dad's been working with him every morning. It gives him something to do besides stare at James's photos. On January 15th, Robert called Maya directly. "I need to tell you something. Last night, I had a panic attack. First one since James died. Couldn't breathe, thought I was having a heart attack. Charlie was in his crate in Emma's room, but he started barking. Wouldn't stop until Emma let him out. He came straight to me and just pressed against my chest. Wouldn't move until I calmed down. How did he know?" "That's what he was trained to do," Maya said. James's unit spent weeks teaching him to notice stress signals, rapid breathing, increased heart rate, behavioral changes. Charlie's job is to notice and respond. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. "It was like having James here," Robert said, his voice breaking. "Like my son was still taking care of me." In February, Maya visited the Mitchell home to check on Charlie's progress. The puppy was now 4 months old, growing into his paws, full of energy and intelligence. More importantly, the family had transformed. They'd converted James's bedroom into a training room for Charlie. Photos of James in uniform covered the walls, along with charts tracking Charlie's development. Emma had come home every weekend from college to work with the puppy. Robert had taken online courses in service dog training. Catherine had started a blog documenting their journey. Charlie's mission, completing what James started. "We've been contacted by other Gold Star families," Catherine told Maya. "Families who lost children in combat and don't know how to keep living. They want to know if getting a dog helped, if Charlie really makes the grief bearable." "Does he?" Maya asked. Catherine looked at Charlie, who was practicing downstay with Emma in the backyard. "He doesn't make the grief disappear. James is still gone and every day hurts, but Charlie gives us a reason to get up in the morning. He needs us, so we have to function. He makes us take walks, maintain routines, interact with the world. And when the grief is crushing, when we can't breathe, Charlie is there. He notices. He helps. He does exactly what James would have done if he were here." "James would be proud of you," Maya said. "I think he'd be proud of all of us, including you. You didn't give up on a puppy. Everyone else would have just adopted out to the first available home. You saw that Charlie had a mission, and you made sure he got to complete it." On March 28th, 4 months after Charlie was left in a box outside Riverside Shelter, Maya received an invitation to a ceremony at Fort Bragg. Captain Reese was hosting a memorial service for James Mitchell, and the Mitchells wanted Maya there. The ceremony was small, just James's unit, his family, and a few close friends. They dedicated a memorial plaque in James's honor, recognizing his service and sacrifice. Captain Reese gave a speech about courage and dedication and the legacy that survives death. But the most powerful moment came when Emma stood to speak, Charlie at her side, wearing a vest that identified him as a service dog in training. "My brother James was the best person I knew," Emma said, her voice steady despite the tears on her face. "He was brave and funny and protective. He always took care of people, his unit, his family, even strangers. When he died, I thought that protection died with him. I thought we'd lost, not just James, but everything he represented." She looked down at Charlie. But then this puppy showed up. A dog James ordered before he died. A dog his unit trained to take care of him. A dog that was supposed to help him come home from war. We almost threw him away. We almost destroyed James's last gift because we were too broken to see what it was. Emma knelt beside Charlie, who immediately pressed against her, the grounding behavior he'd been trained to perform. Charlie is completing James's mission. Every day, he takes care of us. He notices when we're struggling. He provides comfort when grief is overwhelming. He reminds us that James's legacy isn't just about dying for his country. It's about living for the people he loved, about protecting and serving, even from beyond the grave. She looked at Maya, who was standing in the back. A shelter worker named Maya Patel saw what we couldn't see. She saw that Charlie wasn't just a puppy, he was a mission waiting to be completed. She fought for Charlie when we'd given up on him. She showed us that honoring James doesn't mean preserving his memory in amber. It means finishing what he started. It means letting his love continue to protect us, even though he's gone. After the ceremony, Captain Reese pulled Maya aside. "You changed their lives. You know that, right?" "Charlie changed their lives. I just made sure they met him." "Don't undersell what you did. You saw past the abandoned puppy and the grieving family and the impossible timing. You saw a mission that deserved completion. That's not just doing your job, Maya. That's vision." I just couldn't stand the idea of everyone losing. James lost his life. His family lost him. Charlie lost his purpose. It seemed like everyone was losing, and I thought maybe we could find a way for someone to win, even if winning just meant surviving. Captain Reese smiled. "James used to say that the best missions are the ones where everyone comes home. He'd be happy to know that Charlie made it home, even if he couldn't." 1 year after Charlie was left in a box on December 26th, Maya received a Christmas card from the Mitchells. Inside was a photo, the whole family in matching sweaters, Charlie wearing antlers, everyone smiling, really smiling, not the fake smiles of people pretending to be okay. The card read, "Dear Maya, last Christmas we were drowning in grief. We couldn't see past our loss or imagine a future worth living. You gave us Charlie, and Charlie gave us a reason to keep going. This year, we're not just surviving, we're living. We're honoring James by completing his mission. We're taking care of each other with Charlie's help. We'll never stop missing James, but we've learned that love doesn't end with death. It just changes form. James's love is alive in Charlie, in the ways the dog takes care of us, in the mission that continues. Thank you for seeing what we couldn't see. Thank you for not giving up. Merry Christmas from the Mitchell family and Charlie." Maya pinned the card to her bulletin board at work. next to photos of all the other animals she'd helped find homes over the years. But Charlie's card was special. It wasn't just about rehoming an unwanted puppy. It was about completing a soldier's final mission, about showing a family that grief doesn't have to mean the end of love, about proving that sometimes the hardest gifts to accept are the ones that save you. On Christmas Eve, 2 years after finding Charlie in a box, Maya was closing up the shelter when her phone rang. It was Catherine Mitchell. "Maya, I wanted you to know, Charlie officially completed his service dog training last week. He's now a certified psychiatric service dog. He can detect anxiety attacks, provide grounding during flashbacks, even alert when our stress levels are getting dangerous. He's everything James hoped he would be." "That's wonderful, Catherine. But that's not why I'm calling. Robert and I have been talking. We have Charlie, and he's changed our lives. But there are thousands of Gold Star families out there who are struggling the way we struggled. Families who could benefit from having a dog trained the way Charlie was trained. So we're starting a non-profit, Charlie's Mission Foundation. We're going to work with military units to train puppies for fallen soldiers' families. We're going to make sure other families get the gift we almost threw away." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "Catherine, that's incredible. We want you on the board. We need someone who understands animal welfare, who knows how to match dogs with families, who won't give up when things get hard. Will you help us?" "Yes, absolutely yes." "Good, because James taught us that every mission deserves completion, and Charlie taught us that love finds a way to keep protecting people, even after death. Now, we're going to teach other families the same thing." Over the next 5 years, Charlie's Mission Foundation placed 127 dogs with Gold Star families, families who'd lost service members in combat. Each puppy was carefully bred, socialized by the Fallen Soldiers Unit, and trained to provide psychiatric support. Each family was supported through the process, given resources and training and community. The program had a 92% success rate. Families who kept their dogs long-term and reported significant improvement in their grief management. The 8% who couldn't keep their dogs were helped to find the puppies' homes with other veterans, ensuring no dog was ever abandoned. Charlie himself became a therapy dog, visiting military hospitals and Gold Star family events. At 5 years old, he was calm, confident, and remarkably attuned to human emotion. He could walk into a room full of grieving families and immediately identify who needed him most. Emma, now 24, had changed her college major to psychology with a focus on grief counseling. She ran the Foundation's family support program, using her experience with Charlie to help other families navigate loss. Catherine and Robert had found purpose in their pain. They spoke at military events, shared their story with media outlets, raised millions for the Foundation. They'd taken their grief and transformed it into a legacy that honored James while helping others. On what would have been James's 30th birthday, the Foundation held a memorial walk, Gold Star families from across the country gathering to honor their fallen service members and the dogs who'd helped them survive. Over 3,000 people attended, with 127 dogs, all named after fallen soldiers, all trained to complete missions their handlers never got to finish. Maya walked with the Mitchells, Charlie at her side, wearing his therapy dog vest. The crowd was somber, but not defeated, grieving but not destroyed, moving forward while carrying their losses with them. "James would love this," Catherine said, looking at the sea of families and dogs. "He'd love knowing that his death led to something good, that Charlie's mission expanded to help so many people." Charlie's mission or your mission? Maya asked. Both, I think. Charlie was James's idea, but making it bigger, helping other families, that's us taking James's love and multiplying it. That's us refusing to let his death be the end of the story. At the end of the walk, they gathered at a memorial wall where photos of fallen service members were displayed. James's photo was there, young, smiling, in uniform. Charlie sat in front of his photo, as if he understood whose image he was seeing. Emma knelt beside Charlie. You did it, buddy. You completed your mission. You took care of us. You helped us survive. James would be so proud of you. Charlie's tail wagged slowly, and he pressed against Emma, the grounding behavior that had become second nature, the comfort that had saved this family from drowning in grief. Maya stood back and watched, thinking about that cold December morning when she'd found a puppy in a box with a note that said he was supposed to be a surprise. Charlie had been a surprise, just not the kind anyone expected. He'd been a surprise that taught a family how to survive loss, a surprise that turned grief into purpose, a surprise that showed that sometimes the hardest gifts to accept are the ones that save your life. 7 years after finding Charlie, Maya was promoted to director of Riverside Animal Shelter. One of her first initiatives was partnering with Charlie's Mission Foundation to identify puppies suitable for military family placement. Every year, Riverside contributed 10 to 15 puppies to the program, dogs who might have been just pets, becoming dogs with purpose. On the anniversary of finding Charlie, Maya always posted the same message on the shelter's social media. 7 years ago, a family left a puppy in a box outside our shelter. They were drowning in grief and couldn't bear to keep something that reminded them of everything they'd lost. I could have placed that puppy in any home, but something told me his story wasn't finished yet, that he had a mission to complete. Today, that puppy, Charlie, is a certified therapy dog who's helped hundreds of families navigate grief. The family who left him in a box has become advocates for military families, running a foundation that's placed 127 dogs with Gold Star families. And I learned that sometimes unwanted just means not ready yet. Sometimes the best homes are the ones people need time to discover. Sometimes the most important thing we can do is see potential that grief has hidden. Never give up on the stories that aren't finished yet. Never assume you know what an animal or a person is capable of becoming. The post always got thousands of shares, hundreds of comments from people sharing their own stories of animals that changed their lives, of grief that transformed into purpose, of refusing to give up when things seemed hopeless. When Charlie was 8 years old, Maya received a call from Captain Reese, now retired from the Army. Maya, I wanted you to know, the Army is officially adopting the Charlie Protocol. We're institutionalizing the practice of training puppies for service members before they come home, not just for combat engineers, but for anyone with PTSD or military-related mental health challenges. We're partnering with breeders, training facilities, and organizations like Charlie's Mission. We're making it standard procedure rather than an informal program. And it's because of what you did. Because you saw that Charlie had a mission, and you refused to let that mission die with James. Captain Reese, I didn't do this alone. No, you didn't. But you started it. You were the first domino. And now thousands of service members will come home to dogs who are already prepared to help them heal. That's your legacy, Maya. That's what happens when you refuse to give up on a puppy in a box. At Charlie's 10th birthday party, held at the Foundation's new training facility, over 200 people gathered to celebrate the dog who'd started it all. Charlie was grey around the muzzle now, moving more slowly, his working days behind him. But he was happy, healthy, surrounded by people who loved him and understood his importance. Emma, now 29 and running the foundation full-time, gave a speech. 10 years ago, my family made the worst decision of our lives. We took a puppy, this puppy, and left him in a box outside a shelter because we couldn't bear to look at something that reminded us of my brother James. We were wrong. We were blinded by grief and convinced that pushing away pain was the same as surviving it. She knelt beside Charlie, who immediately leaned against her. But Maya Patel saw something we couldn't see. She saw a mission that deserved completion. She saw a family that needed healing. She saw a puppy who'd been trained to protect and serve, and she made sure he got to do exactly that. Because of Maya, because of Charlie, our family survived. And because we survived, we were able to help 127 other families survive. That's the power of one person refusing to give up. That's the power of completing missions that seem impossible. Emma looked directly at Maya. You saved more than a puppy that day. You saved my family. You saved my parents' marriage, because grief like ours destroys families, and we were destroying ourselves. You saved me, because I was drowning in anger and helplessness, and Charlie gave me purpose. You saved all the families who've received dogs through our foundation. You saved the service members who'll come home to dogs already trained to help them. You saved thousands of people, Maya, and it started with a box on a cold December morning. The crowd erupted in applause. Maya, who'd never been comfortable with attention, felt tears streaming down her face. She'd just been doing her job. She'd just been trying to help a puppy and a family. She'd never imagined it would grow into this. After the party, as people were leaving, Catherine pulled Maya aside. I need to show you something. She led Maya to a quiet room, where a portrait hung on the wall. James in his uniform, smiling, with a golden retriever puppy in his arms. Except the puppy hadn't existed when the photo of James was taken. Someone had digitally added Charlie to the image. That's what should have happened, Catherine said softly. James meeting Charlie, holding him, starting their life together. That's the timeline we were supposed to get. But we didn't. And for a long time, I was so angry about that, so broken by what we'd lost. But then I realized something. James's love didn't die with him. It lived on in Charlie. The protection James wanted to give us, the care, the service. Charlie has done all of that. Charlie completed James's mission. And in doing so, he kept James alive in the ways that matter. She touched the portrait gently. This is what I see now when I look at Charlie. Not the gift we almost threw away, not the reminder of everything we lost, but James's love, still protecting us, still serving, still completing the mission. And you made that possible, Maya. You saw what this puppy could become, and you refused to let grief destroy it. I just couldn't let everyone lose, Maya said. James lost his life. You lost him. Charlie lost his purpose. It seemed like loss was going to win. And I thought maybe if I tried hard enough, someone could win instead. We all won, Catherine said, because you refused to accept that the story was over. Thank you, Maya. Thank you for seeing the ending we couldn't see. Thank you for finishing the story we almost abandoned. Charlie lived to be 13 years old, a good long life for a golden retriever. He was still working at 12, still providing comfort at Gold Star family events, still the Foundation's living symbol of hope and completed missions. When he passed peacefully in his sleep in January, surrounded by the Mitchell family, It was like losing James all over again. But it was also different, because this time they'd had time to prepare, time to say goodbye, time to honor what Charlie had given them. At Charlie's memorial service, attended by over 500 people, Emma spoke through tears. Charlie was supposed to be James's dog, but he became our dog. He became the Foundation's dog. He became a symbol for every family that's lost someone in service and doesn't know how to keep going. Charlie showed us that love survives death, that missions can be completed even when the original plan falls apart, that pushing away pain just makes the pain last longer, but accepting help, even help that reminds you of what you've lost, can save your life. She looked at the photo of Charlie displayed at the front of the room, the same photo from his 10th birthday, surrounded by flowers and his service dog vest. Charlie completed his mission. He took care of us. He helped us survive losing James. He showed us how to transform grief into purpose. And his legacy, the 127 dogs trained through our foundation, the hundreds of families helped, the thousands of lives changed, that legacy will outlive all of us. They buried Charlie's ashes next to a new training facility the foundation had built, the James Mitchell Memorial Training Center. His headstone read, Charlie, 2014 to 2027. He was supposed to welcome home a soldier. Instead, he completed the soldier's final mission. Protect the family, serve with honor, never give up. Mission accomplished. Maya visited Charlie's grave on the anniversary of finding him every year. She'd bring flowers and sit for a while, thinking about that December morning when she'd almost stepped on a box containing a puppy and a note, and the beginning of something she couldn't have imagined. You changed everything, Maya would say to the headstone. You changed your family. You changed how we think about military dogs and grief support. You changed me. You taught me that my job isn't just about placing animals in homes. It's about seeing missions that deserve completion and refusing to give up until they're finished. She'd place her flowers and stand to leave, and every time she'd repeat the same words. Thank you for being worth fighting for. Thank you for proving that the hardest gifts to accept are often the ones we need most. Mission accomplished, Charlie. Mission accomplished. If this story touched your heart, we have so many more waiting for you. Stories of dogs who complete impossible missions, of families who find healing in the gifts they almost refused, of love that survives death and transforms grief into purpose. Subscribe to Second Chance Stories and hit that notification bell so you never miss these powerful reminders that endings can become beginnings, that loss can transform into legacy, and that sometimes the most important thing we can do is see missions others have given up on and refuse to let them die. Share this with someone who's grieving during the holidays, someone who's lost a service member, someone who needs to hear that accepting help isn't weakness. It's the courage to keep living when living seems impossible. Drop a comment telling us about a gift that was hard to accept but changed your life, or about someone who saw potential in you when you'd given up on yourself. We want to hear your stories of completed missions and unexpected healing, because every abandoned dog deserves a mission. Every grieving family deserves hope, and every story of love that survives death deserves to be told. Thanks for watching. And remember, missions don't die just because circumstances change. They evolve. They find new people to complete them. They transform grief into purpose and loss into legacy. That's what Charlie did for the Mitchell family. That's what Maya did for Charlie. And that's what all of us can do when we refuse to give up on missions that seem impossible. Sometimes the Christmas gifts we return are the ones that end up saving our lives. All it took was one shelter worker who saw a puppy in a box and thought, "This story isn't finished yet." That thought changed everything. Mission accomplished.